Hey, it's the Road Show, and it's an early one for me, at least here in Colorado. It's 6 a.m. And guys, I am feeling every bit of it because last night I decided to light up a big fat cigar for some reason right before I went to bed. Um,
It's
but
been
life
one
is
hell of a
short.
week for you, hasn't it?
It has. It has. Yeah, life is short. Why not make it shorter? Have a smoke. Alan's here too, as usual, from his home in the UK. And the reason it's so early is because we've got a second Aussie on here with us today. In Australia is a very different time zone, but we're happy to do it because we've got Pat James, a car guy, Porsche fanatic, and big time automotive influencer, if we can say that. Welcome to the Road Show,
Welcome
Pat.
to the show. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, was it like what 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night where you are? Or what is it?
It is, yeah. It's just past 10 p.m. Friday night here for me. So, yeah, a bit of a late one, but I'd rather be doing this late than as early as you are, Ryan, that's for sure.
Absolutely. I'm so glad we could do this.
I did also have to check that 10 o'clock on a Friday night. Are you okay? Because I probably wouldn't be okay 10 o'clock on Friday night. Either, so.
No, I'm fine. I'm keen as, ready to rip in.
Nice. Nice.
We joked before we got on that there was probably a reason that Alan's in the UK now, right? After growing up in Australia.
You pronounced a few words, supported the wrong team, and you're out.
That's right. That's right. So for those of you who don't know, tell us who you are and what you're all about and why Porsche, I guess, is the most important thing.
Yeah, of course. So my name's Pat James. I'm 25 years old, live here in Melbourne, Australia, and I loved cars since I was a kid, really, and I started this YouTube channel, 2PJZ, back in 2017 and ran it sort of inconsistently, I'd say, for about three and a half years, just putting out videos here, there, and everywhere. While I was buying and selling cars, I've had 26, now 27 with my car that I've just bought, cars and bikes, and at 25 years old, so it's obviously more than one for every year that I've been on the planet, which is pretty wild. And yeah, pretty much I was just documenting my journey with cars. I've always had a passion for storytelling. I am a former journalist. I've come from a media background. Both my parents were journalists, and work now full-time in media with motorsports. So yeah, I guess I've always loved combining my passion for storytelling and cars and helping people, educating people, and just taking people along on this journey, because I think there's so much to explore with cars, be it the whole buying and selling journey or just what it's like to actually own particular cars or the emotions they give us. So there's just so much to talk about, and just really happy to be back in it. I've been doing this consistently now since May and seen really significant growth on my Instagram, and now getting back into a longer form content on YouTube as well. So
that's where I first started following you. So back in May, as we were just talking before the recording started, you had about 400 followers, and I thought, okay, Aussie guy, he's got a great story, he's really passionate, and I was learning some things about Porsche and Mercedes in some of your first posts, and then 3 months later, you had 10,000 followers, and now it's 16, and skyrocketing up. So, yeah, well done on that success. I slog away in the evenings, and I get ones and twos. You're getting thousands. So, you've definitely cracked the formula. So well done. But you live in Melbourne now, but you used to live in Adelaide, is that right?
Yes, yeah. So yeah, born and bred Adelaide, grew up there, and moved over to Melbourne for my current job with the Australian Grand Prix now.
So what was life like in Adelaide? So I used to go there for the Grand Prix years ago. Actually, I went to only once. I went to the last one. Then other than that, there's amazing wineries there and some good surfing. So what was life like growing up in Adelaide? Did your parents have cars? I know they were journalists, but what was that a bit like?
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful place. Much easier to drive around than it is here in Melbourne. It's a much more planned out, smaller city, less population. It's half an hour from the foreshore of the beach to the Adelaide Hills, which I might be a bit biased, but I think are some of the best driving roads in the country and perhaps even the world. So you have really good access to really nice areas to drive, and I think it's a very appealing place to live. And yeah, I loved growing up there. I honestly didn't actually have much parental influence with cars. The only person in my life who was into cars and a significant sort of figure was my grandfather. He's a German, and he's always loved his Mercs. And before I was born, he had a couple old Holden Monaros and things like that. And then in my childhood, I fondly remember a few old E-Class Mercs and S-Classes that that was probably my first introduction to cars. And then sort of, when you get to the age where you're playing video games and watching movies, I was all about Gran Turismo and Forza and the Fast and the Furious, and yeah, really part of, I guess, what my generation is the PlayStation generation, which is why we love our JDM cars, we love our 80s, 90s, early 2000s Euro stuff as well, because that was just all in all the games like the Need for Speeds and the Gran Turismos, as I mentioned. So I think for me, my starting point with cars was really that pop culture influence, and then it just took off from there.
You hear a lot about like young people are not into cars, right? And I think you're roughly about half the age of either Alan or me. And we show up to stuff and there are all kinds of young people. So I don't know where that comes from, right? But the one thing that they almost all say is the influence, of the video games, of Gran Turismo and that kind of thing. I mean, even me, I'm quite a bit older, but I remember playing those games and was exposed to cars that I wasn't otherwise exposed to, a lot of the JDM stuff and all that. Roof, right? But it is amazing how, that the pop culture really does factor into it. And so what did you have on the walls as a kid? Did you have anything, or was it just not what did you aspire to own?
Oh, absolutely. I think there are a few Ferraris up there. I think when I was growing up, it was the F430. That was my dream car. And F430 Scuderia is probably my ultimate Ferrari. Yeah. Porsche GT3s, 996, 997 GT3s, the GT3 RS 997.2 is my ultimate grail car. Yeah. So I remember distinctly having a poster of a dark grey one with the red wheels, and was lucky enough to see a few recently at an event that I went to on my wall, and something I always aspired to. And I guess that's where the initial love for the Porsche brand started, was all the way back then.
I'm with you, Pat, because to me that is peak Porsche, like those 997.2s. I aspire to own a 997.2 GT3 someday. I don't even need a 4.0. Just give me the regular car. I just think they're the right size, they're the right power. Not so many nannies. They're just right. They're just right. They just scratch that itch for me. So I'm right with you. I've also heard you talk a lot about the Carrera GT. Yeah, and that really is up there too, isn't it? Alan and I just got back from Monterey Car Week, which I don't know if you've ever been.
No, on my bucket list for sure.
Oh my God, you've got to go.
I would bump it up the bucket list. Before marriage, all those things.
Yes. I know you've got to come halfway around the world, and it's not cheap and all that, but absolutely worth it, because I don't know how many Carrera GTs we saw just parked up on the street, and it was just absolutely epic. I mean, it really, I think, rekindled my excitement for cars. Alan's too. We came back, all we talked about was how it rewired our brains, right? Like, to see just like multiple cars like this, these iconic, these dream cars, it was just absolutely wild.
It just motivates you in so many ways as well, work harder or be more creative, or, more focused to, either spend more time in that environment or be able to buy more cars. So well, that's the thing. Even just looking at my Instagram, seeing the picture of just hypercar after hypercar after hypercar after like unicorn after hypercar after one off, it's just like blew my mind. So it is a huge goal for me to get over. There's a few things I'd love to come over to the US to do car wise, but I think Car Week is certainly number one on my list.
What else is on your list for the States?
I would love to, hopefully when the YouTube channel grows a little bit more, would love to really hang out with a few of the YouTubers that I grew up watching. People like Adam LZ, TJ Hunt, Dustin Williams. There's a few YouTubers from America that I would just like kill to have the opportunity to sit down and spend an hour with, talking about how they grew their brand, how they, because they all run their businesses on the side, so how they run the business of content, and just spend some time with them and learn from them. I would absolutely love that.
And it's crazy in the US. Like I spent a couple of years in California when I was working for Rivian, and the evenings and weekends, any beach city or sizable outlet car park, there was a car gathering. It's just everywhere. It's a massive car scene. But what was the car scene like in Adelaide? Sort of night cruises or hangouts, and then taking that into Melbourne as well.
Yeah, it's good. I used to run a Cars and Coffee type event in Adelaide called Cars and Coffee Tonsley, and I just went back there a couple of weeks ago now to hang out with some mates, see some friends and family, and went down to the event, which is really good. So you have the sort of monthly get-togethers. You also have a few more sporadic events. There used to be a lot more night meets than there are now, but the policing presence recently in the last sort of 5 years has really clamped down on that. There's lots of restrictions around running events with things like public liability insurance and other boring stuff. So it's yeah, not quite as free flowing as it was when I was probably a bit younger and just first getting my license, and all I wanted to do was head out and meet people and see cars and get involved in the community. But it's good that in Adelaide there's that one monthly meet, which is just a really good chance for people to get together. You see the same sort of group of people, you get to know the same people that go, you get to meet new people that go. And then moving to Melbourne, obviously it's a much bigger place, so I've found it's even more sporadic. There's more events, but there's so many on all the time that you're not really sure which one's worth going to, because in Adelaide there might be 2 on for the weekend, and you know you've got a 50-50 chance of one being pretty good because most people go to that, and one being a bit average because no one goes to that. But here you might have like 6 events on, and you go, well, they're all at different corners of Melbourne. It takes a long time to drive around, so you're just like, which one do I go to? But there's a really good one called Highball Cars and Coffee that happens sort of just shorter than every quarter, and that is just fantastic. The quality there is unlike anything that I've ever seen in Australia before.
And what sort of stuff turns up? Is it like when I was there and doing my cruises, it used to be very much a Japanese influence, obviously some Aussie hardware, but what is it now?
Oh, a bit of everything. At events like Highball, you've got everything from, I saw a brand new Ferrari Daytona SP3, all the way right down to, you know, your JDM stuff, your Euro stuff, American muscle, Aussie muscle. The Japanese scene in Melbourne is really big. There's a really nice quantity of really well-built cars here. Same with the Euro stuff. You know, you get Ferraris, and particularly around where I live here, I see Ferraris and things like that all the time. It feels like every second car is like a Porsche Macan or Cayenne or something. So they're everywhere around here. But yeah, at the meets, you literally can just see anything that you're into, which is so great just to see this wide variety of cars. It's my favorite thing.
That's amazing. So growing up, when I used to do these car events, you might have one Porsche or you might have one Ferrari, and the rest was Japanese and a handful of, you know, Monaros or Utes and stuff. So, and the tuning scene, like when I went to California, there's lots of small like cottage areas of car tuning, and like, you know, there's one road and there's 10 tuners on there, or 10 body shops. I think Melbourne was pretty similar as well. They had that, you know, car tuning modifying culture that was, you know, a lot of good players in that market. Is it still that way now?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I think people, I don't know if it's something to do with the value of these cars now, that they're all just skyrocketing in value. People want to bring them out and show them off more. You would think sometimes it might have the opposite effect, that people don't want to bring the cars out anymore and want to hide them away in the garage. And there is plenty of that. But I think with such a growing population here, you have more people, and just by virtue of that, you've got more people bringing stuff out. So
Right.
yeah.
And some of the older stuff is going up in value as well. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I used to have a Series 3 Mazda RX-7 back in the day, and I thought, oh, I want a fun weekend car, so I'll go shop for one. And I went and looked, and like, I think I sold mine for $3,000, and now they're $30,000.
That's unreal.
Like, just don't sell anything. Just hold on. It will
I know.
go up.
I know. It's wild. Yeah, I've made some pretty pretty crazy flips on some of the stuff that I was buying and selling. So yeah, and it had a lot to do with COVID. I got lucky with the COVID market with a lot of my stuff, but it just seems, whatever you buy now, it's a certain hold really, and it will just go up in value.
Do you have a particular style of car that you go shopping for and try and sell, or?
Yeah. I mean, I used to buy stuff that I have very limited mechanical skills, and I'm like a YouTube mechanic. I've taught myself mechanical skills of watching YouTube tutorials, and it's very limited. And my mates will often give me a lot of stick for how crap my mechanical skills are. But I would sort of buy things that aren't completely spent, but they still have enough life in them that, you know, they might just need a bit of love that someone hasn't put the effort and time into. But a lot of things I bought, I just essentially bought and they were okay, and I just, either by modifying them or fixing up a few little things, just made them better. And then because I know how to write, I know how to sell, I was able to write these really good ads. And I've always said that I think an ad for a car is a really good descriptor of if the seller actually loves their car or not. You can usually tell with the effort they put into an ad, seeing as I've bought and sold so many, and I bought my fair share of lemons too. Like I definitely haven't kick goals on every occasion, but yeah, it's just certainly stuff that just need a little bit of extra love and attention, and stuff that I knew, particularly with my generation, was going to go up in value. Anything with racing pedigree will always go up in value. In Australia, anything that has the word Bathurst anywhere near it will go up in value. It's anything from video game as well is surefire way to make some dosh.
Guys, tell me about Bathurst, because I've heard stories about how legendary that is just as an experience.
It's legendary in every way.
Yeah, some drinking involved there.
Yeah. It's essentially, as in Australia, I'd say like Bathurst has the same weighting as what Monaco has to F1. It's just like the most legendary Australian race.
Yeah, Le Mans 24 hour in France or Europe.
Yeah. But it's a big party, right? I guess is what I'm getting at too, right? It's just legendary for that. And fights and things, or am I wrong about that? Like I just...
Maybe
I just remember
it's Australia, you know.
Okay. Yeah. Back in the day, certainly more than now.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah. But it's a brutal track, you know. To come, you know, down the hill on all four wheels is a challenge. It's so tight, it's so steep, and it's really, you know, fender to fender racing. It's Yeah.
Well, growing up in the States, I mean, everything from Australia was cool and had an edge, right? And I vividly remember, I think it was Car and Driver, reading an article about Bathurst and just like what a thing it was. I'm like, oh my God, this seems like a terrifying place, but also super cool. And it would be very cool to see that race sometimes. So what's the, what are young people into? You said anything with pedigree. You know, Al and I just got back from Car Week, and I think I wasn't the only one who spent my time there thinking, all right, what should I be buying now that I can come back when I'm an old man to Car Week, and you know, what can we in show on the lawn, right? Like, talk to some of these guys there, and they talk about how they bought their Gullwing for $60,000, you know, or whatever. Now here, like, so what? You said anything with racing pedigree, anything with, like, you know, we always talk too about this generational thing, right? About how we all want to own the stuff that we couldn't afford when we were younger. What should we all be filling barns with right now, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, I think for my generation, it's exactly that. It's things that we wanted growing up that we couldn't afford, and we're still sort of chasing our tail for. Like I'm a big Nissan GTR guy. Like you can see some of the stuff I've got behind here I love my Nissan GTRs. The R34 GTR for me since I was a kid. Yeah, it has just been my ultimate. And I know, like, objectively, it's not that great of a car, but it's just this sort of thing that I've always had in my head as the motivation for me to work hard, because, you know, it's like a $250,000 car now, which is just wild. And I remember looking in when I was in like year 9 and 10 at school, when they were still about 50 or 60 grand. And I was like, whoa, like that's a huge amount of money. Like, when am I ever going to be able to afford that? And then they just keep going and going. So I think in the Japanese scene, things like Mitsubishi Evos, Mazda RX-7s, particularly the FD RX-7, any of the GTRs, 32s, 33s, 34s. In the European scene, M3s of the early 2000s, like the E36 and E46 M3. Majority of sort of AMG Mercs from that era as well. It's anything from the late 90s, I think, early 2000s, particularly in the European and Japanese area is a pretty good investment for now.
Yeah. I think those early AMGs still have a lot of room to go. We were down at Amelia Island earlier this year, and I think that was my absolute favorite thing on display. Was there's this whole group of like 12 pre-merger AMGs and some post-merger AMGs, but just like that stuff that I grew up as a kid seeing in the magazines, with the big graphic equalizers and the Testarossa vents and, you know, all that, which seems so tacky for so long. It's really coming into its own. And
I'd love a W124. W124 Hammer for me, I think, and a 560 SEC AMG with the big white guards, big black angry looking thing. I reckon that would just be unreal.
Oh yeah, the painted grille with the painted star, right? Whether the car was black or that was just so cool. No one was doing that, and you know, this is an era too when these cars were not commodity cars, right? I think it was Alan. You mentioned there might be one Porsche that would show up, you know, to meet or that you'd see as a kid, and now these are commodity cars, right? I mean, this was exotic stuff. Like, what's exotic anymore to you? Because everyone's got a Lamborghini, right? Everyone's got a Ferrari, it seems like sometimes, especially in California. So what qualifies as a true exotic anymore?
Oh, I know, and that's the
Yes.
thing. And with social media now, it just makes it seem like everyone's got, a Lamborghini Huracan or a
Yeah.
Ferrari 488. So I think that the definition of like supercar now has moved past your Ferraris and Lambos more
Hmm.
towards, I think, things like Koenigsegg's. I think
Yeah.
they're proper exotic because you don't see many of those in Australia,
Yeah.
but you can go out, to the city on a Friday night in Melbourne here, and you'll see 5 or 10 Ferraris or
Really?
Lambos. Like, yeah, they're not
Really?
that.
That's,
I mean, they're not that amazing to me anymore. At least
yeah.
I know
Yeah.
to some
Yeah.
people they are, but they don't really like take my fancy. But I
Yeah.
think anything that moves past that sort of supercar into hypercar territory, and particularly the older stuff. I've always liked the older stuff. I'd prefer to
Yeah.
see a Carrera GT over a brand new top of the spec Ferrari or Lamborghini any day.
Yeah.
Like I just love that earlier stuff.
I can't even identify like half the new Ferraris. I don't even know what's what anymore. And I hate to say it, but that happens with McLaren sometimes too. It's just, I can't keep track of everything. There was a time when I was young where I knew the specs on every car, it didn't matter what it was. And I feel like it's kind of like with music. As you get older, you start to lock into that era, right? From when you were younger, and you're always forever operating in that. Yeah.
You obviously in the car scene in Adelaide. You've moved to Melbourne. You've given us an insight into the car scene there. And for me, it was like the scenes from Fast and Furious. Everyone like parked up and music and a couple of people doing races and donuts and stuff.
Yeah.
And thankfully, the do-gooders weren't that involved back then, so you could get away with a little bit more. And thankfully, no Instagram back then as well, so you could, nothing captured for evidence either. But you're living the life within motorsport as well, aren't you? So you work for what is it called? The
The Australian Grand Prix Corporation.
There you go. And what's your role there?
So I essentially look after our stakeholder comms, which is a very wide job title, but essentially it ranges from everywhere from the internal side of comms, so I manage everything that we do with staff internally, all the way out to the comms that we put out to our stakeholders, which could be our customers that come to the event, could be local council, could be sponsors, teams, riders, drivers, essentially anyone who receives our official communications, be it through official ticketing channels, accessibility information for our events, anything that people need to know about media. So I've been doing a lot of media stuff ahead of MotoGP, writing a few articles for our program, doing media announcements. So it's really wide ranging, which is great because I'm doing different things every day and trying to just expand on all these skills that I've sort of been developing over these last few years every day, which is great. And it just keeps me really engaged, and it's really
And that's
fun.
all year round. It's not like, hey, it's a month before the event, you start ramping up. It's all year round, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, because it's a constant development process. We're always trying to make the event better. If you look at the stats from the Formula One Australian Grand Prix, you'll see year on year it's growing, and we're putting in effort to make it grow. It's not just happening thanks to Drive to Survive. I mean, it has had a huge influence, and we'll never say that that's not a good thing because Drive to Survive has been great for the sport. But it's all the work that we're putting in the background. So it's year on, looking at how we can implement project groups to make certain facilities around the event better. So, for example, I've been part of a project group looking at Legends Lane, which is our motorsport precinct. So we've essentially been looking at how can we make the motorsport precinct more engaging for those rusted on diehard F1 fans who have been coming forever. They might be a bit miffed that there's all these like Netflix fans coming in now and taking the tickets away from them.
Our event.
And
Yeah.
exactly. And we want to make sure that they know that we hear them, we see them, we still want them to be part of the event, and we're going, all right, this is your area. This is the area that the Netflix fans might not care that much about because they just want to enjoy the hospitality, the concerts, and everything else that we've got on the other side of the park. But how can we make the motorsport area better? So, yeah, it is a constant year-round process, and same thing for MotoGP. Just it starts pretty early. It's a smaller event, but there's still a lot to develop there because we're trying to translate a lot of the fans from F1 to MotoGP. It hasn't quite had the same uptake that F1 has had over the past couple of years. So there's always ways that we're trying to investigate how we can promote both events.
It's a slightly different crowd, though, isn't it? And it's like it's great racing. It's almost better racing. And I grew up not too far away from Phillip Island, so I used to race super bikes myself, and have got the scars and the destroyed bike from crashing at the end of the main straight. But you go to that crowd, that audience, and it was a it was a very different, demographic of people that go there. I know it's changing as time is going on, and different nationalities and manufacturers are coming in and marketing activation activities, but it's hard to try and get that crossover, isn't it? I would imagine.
It is, yeah, and it is. And you're right, with Moto, it's a very different audience. You've got majority older men who like MotoGP, and they've loved it since the Mick Doohan era, and they've been following it since then, and they love it, and they'll keep coming until they can't walk anymore. So, but we're trying to get the the younger people in. So that's the hard part is how do we translate the younger people over to MotoGP? Because you're right, it is objectively more interesting racing. I mean, I find it more interesting than watching Max Verstappen win the race that I've got up at 3 a.m. to watch every couple of weeks. So changing now, obviously, thank God, we're having a few more winners. I'm a big McLaren fan, so I can see on your shirt there, Alan. So that's good Aussie representation. But
and I will say as well, I don't think I'm that blatant Aussie, national pride until I see an Australian Formula One driver win a Grand Prix. And then suddenly I become really Australian. It's like everything comes out, the old boxing kangaroo Aussie flag, I buy merch. I'm a different person at that point. So I know, what nationality I am now.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a huge sense of pride to go with it. And with Jack Doohan just signing as well for next year.
Yeah.
Hopefully Daniel can get a seat too. Then we've got 3 Aussies on the grid, which will just be totally unreal. And the Melbourne Grand Prix next year is the first race of the year, so it's going to be absolutely massive.
And so for those that don't know, Jack Doohan is the son of Mick Doohan, who is a 500cc World Grand Prix motorcycle racer. I think he's 3 or 4 times world champion.
4 times, yeah.
Yeah, and he had a massive accident. He damaged his foot, and they had to stitch his legs together so they could get the blood flow, to keep his leg alive. And then when he got back on a bike, it was still a very flexible joint or flexible limb. So they had to move the controls around onto the handlebars and swap on left and right. So he could still ride this bike, and he just went even faster again. So
yeah, he used to use a thumb brake after that. So
Wow.
I actually wrote an article on him for our program for the MotoGP. So yeah, great story of courage and determination with Mick there. Just never say die attitude.
Yeah, true Aussie grit. And then his son. So I didn't even know he was in car racing until they announced his promotion to the next class. And that'd be great to see. So you have 2 or 3 Aussies in Formula One for a small population. It'd be great. So
yeah, we'll be awesome. We'll be really, really good.
Pat, so you said your background is journalism. I mean, you're a relatively young guy. You went to school for journalism. That was sort of your entree into this. Yeah, so I think it's important to illustrate that everyone wants to be a part of this world, but no one wants to do the work sometimes. Right? Like you really, you're paying your dues, right? And I'm sure that you're leveraging a lot of what you're learning at your day job, right, with what you're doing on the side here as well. Is this the path you'd recommend? Because we get this question a lot, even doing what we do. How do we get into this world? We want all the benefits. We want to go to Car Week. We want to go to the parties. We want to see the cars and drive the cars and everything else. What's your advice to a young person? Is it to take the journalism route? And does it tick you off when people claim to be automotive journalists? So often, I guess they're not. You look at us and just say,
No. I think that's the thing. Like I've never been a fan of gatekeeping, and I think if someone wants to do something and they've got a genuine passion for it, then my main bit of advice is just to start. Like, you don't have to be an expert to start. There's never going to be a perfect time. As I said, I stopped 3 years ago doing this content thing, and for 3 years between 2021 to now, I was sort of just waiting for that perfect chance, and I was waiting for that perfect opportunity, or to have the perfect car that would send me viral online. So I was looking for shortcuts essentially, and I think a lot of people, because of social media, they look for shortcuts, and the shortcuts simply don't exist. Like, nothing good comes without work, and you just have to be willing to put yourself out there. It's hard, especially in this online game, because you're just like, what are my friends going to think? What's my family going to say? What are strangers online going to say to me? Because people come up with some weird stuff. But my advice for anyone is just to start. From a professional perspective, I think media training certainly helps. It's not a necessity. I think it's certainly something that will assist you, just to give you the basic fundamentals of storytelling and connecting with people, because particularly in the car niche, the cars are one thing, but you're not going to do anything good without connecting with people and learning from people and talking and building those relationships. So it's just a matter of, I think if you want to take it seriously and you're not sure what you want to do, if you're looking for a career option, then definitely I would say go towards the media side of things. And if you want to take it a level up from there, then start learning about business as well, because you're going to have to find something to support your interest.
And then after 10 years, you become the overnight success.
That's right. That's
People
right.
go, it's like, you just made it, and you think you have got flogged for like 10 plus years.
Yes.
It's something I've had to accept. Doing this is you're putting yourself out there. And for me, I've sat in a dark room designing car parts most of my life. And, Ryan keeps on saying it's all about engagement. We need to get out there and get reach. You literally go out to events and, talk to people, and you've just got to engage. And for me, it was a big step to do a recording and to put it out saying, hi, this is who I am. This is what I'm part of. But it's getting that connection with people as well, isn't it? It's telling that story of, making people want to join and listen.
It is, yeah. And you don't have to have the most compelling story in the world. I think if you have a genuine passion for it, then that will come through naturally. And I hope that's what, my stuff does, is I'm really genuinely passionate about it. And I'm not just doing it to gain clout online. And I'm not just talking about Porsches because Porsches are trending and everyone wants to know about Porsches. Like, I actually love the stuff that I'm talking about. And my purpose, I think, in life and in what I'm doing is to help other people. And my medium to do that is cars. So, and that's the thing. You've just got to have a passion for it, and you just have to be willing to put yourself out there.
And if you took Instagram away, you'd still be doing the same daily things, wouldn't you? You'd still be going to those car events. You'd still be putting on events. You'd still be talking about cool cars or things that you learned. So, yeah, it's a great window into your life as well.
Oh, exactly. When I'm not at the gym in the morning and then I'm not at my 9 to 5, I'm doing this, my content thing. So my whole life, pretty much, besides when I'm in the gym, is something to do with cars, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
We've talked about this before, how few people that do what we do, if you want to call it that, are true car enthusiasts, and it shows through. When you watch your videos, the passion is clear. You can't fake the funk, And I think if you do that enough, people will find you. That said, it is kind of nice to get a jump start. So any suggestions for the rest of us? When did you know that it was clicking for you?
I think you sort of. It's a good question. It's something that I still feel like I'm nowhere near where I want to be yet, and I still feel like I'm so far off what I'm trying to do. So I don't actually feel, if I'm being completely honest, a massive sense of achievement for anything that I've done yet, because I'm just like, I've got these goals in mind for where I want to be. Like, for example, I haven't even made $1 off anything that I'm doing, and my goal is to eventually be doing this full time. So I'm like, I'm nowhere near that yet. I'm just like making videos for the fun of it now. But I think when I started to see the videos working was when you, again, as I said, you analyze the principles of storytelling, you research what works on social media, and that's both by spending a lot of time on social media, engaging with lots of content, and also just reading about it. Everyone will post about growth hacks for Instagram, but honestly, I don't think they really exist. I might craft what I think is the best video in the world, and you'll throw it out there and it'll bomb. And I spent like 2 hours on it, and then something that I spent literally 10 seconds on will go and do like 500,000 views. So there's no rhyme or reason.
I saw recently, I was, Sung Kangster, and he was driving along, just pulling out wrappers from his car. It's empty, chucking it, another wrapper, empty. 100,000 likes.
Yeah.
And you go, he's literally just recording himself looking for snack food in his car. So
yeah.
You go, wow, what is it?
It's crazy. But I think the key is just consistency, and for me, I chose to do daily uploading. I said to myself, I'm going to do daily uploading. I haven't set a goal for when I'm going to stop that. I just said from today, I'm going to upload something every single day. And every single day when I try and upload something, I will examine what works, what doesn't work. I'm not very good with numbers, but I'm very data driven with my content. So I'll look at my analytics. I'll look at my average watch time. I'll look at the percentage split between my reels being sent to followers and non-followers. I'll see where my followers are coming from, what age groups they are, if they're male, if they're female, things like that. And I was like, okay, what can I improve to target these groups that aren't being targeted in this particular reel in whatever I post tomorrow? And just trying different forms of content, like you learn something new by trying something new. And even if you're not perfect at it, like I said before, you will get better at it with time.
Well, I think that formula must have started working for you, because that's when you sort of really, your following took off, wasn't it? So it's definitely getting the content out there every day. And I went back every day to see what the new car was, for sure, checking in. So
Yeah.
it was a cliffhanger.
That was my old journalism coming out there. I built the hype for that for as long as I possibly could. And in the reel I posted yesterday, where I sort of tried to give a tiny little clue away and then direct people and sort of direct my funnel to YouTube, a few people were starting to get a bit frustrated in the comments. They're like, "Oh, come on, just show me." And I'm like, "Good." That means the strategy that I put in place for this, even though it's only been a month and a half since I got rear-ended, and it's not been that long, but to people, if they're seeing it every day and they're keeping along with the journey, it feels like forever. And when you're building that emotion in people as a creator, that's just the best feeling, that people are actually engaging and wanting to know what's going on.
And you timed it perfect as well. I think the reveal, it was just that making people hang on just long enough to want to see it. So what is the car that you've chosen? I saw it was revealed, but I'll let you announce it.
Yes, so it's a 2000 Toyota Chaser Tourer V. So it comes with the 1JZ turbocharged 6-cylinder engine. It's the car that I've always wanted. It's in a really rare color called 8L4 Blue. Toyota only made 528 Chasers in that color, which is about 2% of all Chasers that have ever been made. So I'm a call me a nerd, but I love the rare stuff. If I can get a rare combination of something, that's just what I go nuts for. So
I love how you know all the data about there are some I do, but when I get to working with my current car, they're like, "What is this and what is that?" I'm like, "I have no idea. I just like it. I just don't care."
So
yeah.
Two questions for those of us in the U.S. who don't have the Chaser. What is the Chaser, or what would it be most similar to as far as what's sold in the States? And I guess the second part of that question is, how well did your decision go over with your following?
So the Chaser is a Japanese import, so it didn't get sold domestically in Australia either. It's what would it be most similar to the US? I'd say in Australia it would be most similar to a turbo Ford Falcon.
Okay.
What do you have? It wouldn't be quite a Dodge Challenger, because that's a V8. What do you have over there? That's sort of a early 2000s 4-door sedan.
Yeah, maybe a Pontiac GTO.
Did you do much with turbos in that era in America?
That was more big V8s, honestly. The turbo thing is a little more recent for the most part. But
that's why I can't pick it. But
it's they're
very big in the
or something out there, doesn't it?
Yeah, something like that. But
so
they're
it's
very
a sedan.
big in yes, very big in the drifting scene. Popularized again through pop culture, Gran Turismo. More recently, I think in the US, particularly through YouTubers like TJ Hunt, Adam LZ, they've got their own chasers and things that they keep in America and Japan, and they take drifting at Ep017 in Japan. So it's a car that's always had a huge cult following, and I have always wanted one, but I knew buying that car would help my growth with my channel and my brand as well, because people want to see it. So that was a big part of the decision as well. And
now you've got the steady flow of all the mods you're going to do to it, and obviously you're going
to because it's completely original. It's dead stock, which it's everything is original. I've never seen one so original, even with a factory radio, factory exhaust.
Is it criminal to start?
And that's the thing. That's the thing that I keep sort of flip flopping on. Is it's so original that I do really feel guilty touching it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I know that I don't even want to do that much, but I know it's got a bit of potential to just make it look a little bit nicer. And you can keep. I want to do everything that is totally reversible. Should I ever want to take it back to stock, and I'd keep all the stock parts.
I guarantee you're going to get to a crossroads at some point where it's cut this or not.
No. No, good touch, not bad touch.
Well, it's like
do things that are reversible.
Fitting a front mount intercooler on them, for example, you have to shave the back of the front bumper. And I'm just I don't know how I feel about that. But we'll see when the time comes. But has gone down, to answer the second part of your question, Ryan, very well with the audience. I think there's as I said, I teased it for a while. It was either this or a Honda Accord Euro R, which is again quite a rare, unique car.
Right.
So I think I definitely picked the right car, and people have seemed to love it so far.
Do you always read the comments?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think, and that I do, and I genuinely do, and I read all the messages I get, and I just like to try and keep in touch. Like, I think one of the reasons why I started this is because a lot of the creators that I engaged with and I followed as time went on and as they got bigger, they lose touch with their audience and they become very commercialized. You don't have to look far on the internet now to see everyone leaving massive YouTube channels like Donut and Hoonigan because these commercial entities come in and take over and remove the heart and soul of what these channels used to be. And even some of the bigger solo creators that I follow and engage with, they just lose their authenticity. And that's one thing that I'm hoping to maintain as the brand grows, is still just maintaining that authenticity in everything that I do.
That's going to be tough. I mean, I don't know how people keep up sometimes. I mean, I get it. It becomes a lot, but that's the paradox, right? Like if you lose that, then you lose that heart and soul. You lose what got you that following in the first place.
Exactly.
The place, I suppose. So, yeah, it's
We'll
interesting.
we'll never sell out. We're gonna stay true. So.
We got a long way to go before that becomes a problem. Yeah.
Hello? Yeah. 5 minutes. Yeah.
Alan makes no small plans, right? That's for sure. So
Yeah, it's a bit crazy. I message Ryan and say, hey, have you got 2 minutes? Can you call me? And he'll ring me. It's like, yeah, what's up? I'm like, I got this idea. And he's like, well, that'll be good in 2 years' time. So I've got another one for you later, actually, Ryan. So
it's a lot, even what we do, it's just a lot. It becomes a full-time thing, again, the messages, the DMs, keeping up with content, but it's all those things you have to do, right? You said you made a conscientious decision to do daily content. So that means you got to get up every day, whether you want to or not. You got to pump something out. Do you wing it? Do you script things? Like what's your plan?
Yeah, I'm a big planner. I always have been a big planner. I use Monday.com for all my planning. I'm not sponsored, but they can if they want. That'd be great.
Here it comes. Yeah.
So I use that for all my planning, and essentially I have a calendar for the month, and I'll just start having a brainstorm firstly to think of what I would like to cover off on that month. And then I find if I write 5 ideas down, once I start fleshing those ideas out, more will come. And then as you're sort of going through the month, you're seeing what people are commenting. People sort of ask for different videos. People ask questions, particularly on a lot of the Porsche things that I've done. A lot of the follow-up videos have come from people asking questions. So there was one that I did about explaining all the models of the 992, 911. And someone said, I see so much about the new GT3 RS. Like, why is that so hyped? Like, why do people love it so much? And then I happened to be going out to a local Porsche event that one of the dealers was hosting for Sports Car Together Day, which is where I saw that silver Carrera GT I posted on my feed. And there was someone had brought a new 992 GT3 RS to the meet. And I was like, oh, perfect. I can just walk around this car for a minute and answer these questions. And in that same vein as well, like I do a lot of filming with my girlfriend. I have to give her a shout out. She's the one behind the camera, and she doesn't know anything about cars. Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah, and that's where a lot of the videos come from. Is my first viral video, the original explainer on the Porsche brand, came from Erin going like, why do you love this so much? Like, why do people care about this so much? And when we're at meets, like she'll just be recording me. I'll have the mic clipped onto me the whole meet, and she'll just start recording me when I have no idea, when I've got my back turned and asks me a question, and I'll just give her an honest reply to the question, and then I go, oh, that's a 25-second video. Yeah, so sometimes it's scripted. Anything that I do in this little space is scripted. I'll write dot points for my YouTube videos, so I'm not rambling. But I like to try and keep a lot of it raw because I think that's where the best content comes out and the most authentic content happens.
Yeah. And she does a great job as well, and so a couple of times you catch her asking questions and stuff in the videos as well, which is really good. But I know if I said to my wife, I'm going to a car event, can you bring a camera and film me all day? I know the answer I'm going to get. So.
Yeah, she's very good. I'm very grateful. I'm very lucky in that sense. I would definitely be at a huge disadvantage if I was just out there doing it by myself.
And the fact that she doesn't want to be in front of the camera, it seems, right?
Yeah.
It's
I
not
give
your
her a little-
competition, right? Like it's
Yeah, she'll do a little cameo guest spot if I
Well,
turn
she-
the camera
okay.
around. But yeah, usually she's more than happy being behind the camera.
yeah. And who's your audience? Is it mostly Australian? Are you around the world? I mean, like, where are your hot spots as far as your following?
Yeah,
What's
well,
your demographic? Because
Yeah,
we looked
it's-
at ours the other day. You talked about like old men. Like that's exactly who's watching this right now. So how do we change that? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, mine has. It started off being people similar to me, so it was that sort of 18 to 25-year-old demographic. And as I started posting more, particularly Porsche stuff, I've had a lot more older people. So my like 45 to 54-year-old bracket has increased exponentially, which I'm really like surprised by. But the majority still is between that 18 to 25 years old.
And that is huge because that's what everyone else wants, and you've got it. I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing. And all around the world.
Yes, yeah. Majority from Australia, because that's just obviously where I've started. And every time I post, I'll geotag Melbourne, so it gets pushed to Australians more. But I have noticed that I'm getting stuff from everywhere. Like I'm getting people following me from India or from South Africa or from, I've got a few people who send me DMs all the time from New York saying, oh, like when you come to New York, I've got a 911 Turbo S. I'd love to take you out for a spin. And I'm just like, wow. And then someone else that I've chat to regularly from Tampa Bay. So I'm just like, there's just the reach that it's getting is insane. I even had Gordon Ramsay like one of my reels yesterday. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and I'm
That's
just like,
awesome.
it's wild to think that at the start of May, I was sitting on my couch going, oh, do I, don't I, like not sure what to do. And as I said, I'm still so far from where I want to be, but it's moments like that where you go, oh, this could turn into something, it's really cool.
Right. Well, you have to keep reaching. You can never be satisfied, right?
Exactly.
I mean, you've got to keep growing. You've got to, I think the moment that you say, hey, I've made it is the moment you die, right? What sort of following with women do you have? I'm just curious because you got a great head of hair, man. Like what's the...
He kept saying that before we started recording. He's like, he's got a great head of hair.
Man, I had hair like that once.
Your fans are looking at a young Ryan there.
I think last time I checked, it was. I can check again now, but I think it was around maybe 16 to 17% of my audience was women.
That's
so
pretty
still,
good for a car.
Yeah, still very much
channel.
male dominated, but I think because obviously of my girlfriend's influence, a lot of what I do is not like I never want to mansplain, but I think a lot of what I do is that really good introductory level content for either girls who like cars and want to get into them, or girlfriends of boys who like cars and want to learn a bit more about it. And I just try and make it really accessible to everyone.
The fact that you're analytical about this, right, just puts you ahead of so many people, I think. Us included, right? Where we just, this is a business, and you've got to be strategic, and you've got to do what people are responding to, and you've got to break it down, and you've got to give the people what they want, and it just the fact that you're doing that just puts you so far ahead of everyone else. So real quick, go back to the comments. Anyone ever said anything mean?
Oh, all the time. Yeah,
really?
all the
Because
time.
I mean,
yeah.
What could they possibly?
Oh, nothing that like I mean, it doesn't. But I actually love it when people give me a bit of stick. Like it just makes me like, fire up. Like let's go.
Yeah.
But it's like in the video that I posted about the Porsche facts. A lot of people got really pissed off about a few things in that, which is great. Like I purposely wrote the script to agitate people. Like
exactly.
For example, with my first fact, I said that the Ferrari and Porsche crest, the horses on the crest are the exact same. When I know for a fact they're very similar, but they're not the exact same. But sometimes that was a conscious decision I made to say, I know this isn't 100% true. It's 90% true, but I know this is going to help push and it did. Like the video's got nearly 1.5 million views now, and it's
so
still
smart.
My most viewed video to date. So sometimes you have to sort of make decisions like that and concessions like that. A lot of people purposely mispronounce words on social media to try and drive comments saying, oh, you mispronounced the word, or like, something like that. So I haven't gone to that level, but I just thought this is my way of doing that I don't think really affects the reputation of my brand. But
wait till you see the title of this episode.
That was the first video I saw, and I sat there and went, is it exactly the same? I don't think it is. Like, I'm not
Yeah, but see, that's
motivated enough to write, but it definitely made me think and go, okay, I'm going to follow this guy. And then I
Yeah,
messaged
yeah,
yeah,
Ryan and I was like, hey, Ryan, I think Pat would be really good for the show,
yeah.
So,
Hey,
yeah.
I'm learning here, you know? I mean, I think Al and I are just old enough where we didn't grow up with this. And, you know, so that's just not the way we think about this, right? Like, why would
yeah.
we introduce an error or, you know, why would we, you know, to get the people talking? But that's so smart. It's so
Yeah, that's
smart.
the thing. Like at the end of the day, Instagram particularly. So TikTok, you need to make content that keeps people on the platform. That's what gets you views on TikTok. On Instagram, you have to make content that gives people an emotional reaction. So it has to make people feel something. So that's why car photography accounts are huge because they make people feel good with the imagery. But if you're doing car content like me, you either have to make people feel angry at you, or you have to make people feel proud of you, or you have to make people feel
Some
inspired by you.
emotional
So
connection.
yeah, you
Yeah.
have to give that emotional connection because if you're not, then they're just going to scroll to the other 100 videos they're going to watch that night, and they're not going to feel
Right.
anything from you. And that's what helps keep your average watch time up. Helps what gets you follows and all things like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think certainly with your stuff, if you can try and make people feel some sort of emotion by some of the things that you're saying on the podcast, that'll be great for your growth as well.
Well, watch us. No, this
Here
is
we
very
go.
helpful, you know, because we didn't necessarily come at it from that angle. You know, neither of us are journalists, right? I mean, this came from pure passion, and that's wonderful. And I think you need that, but we don't always sit back and analyze and do a postmortem or what have you of the work we do. You know, Alan alluded earlier to just the, you know, showing up at events and just sort of pressing the flesh and all that. Have you found that that's an important part of this, kind of keep that authenticity going? And tell us about the first time you were recognized just out and about, and what was
Yeah.
that like?
Yeah, that actually happened. I want to say just over a month ago now. I was
Really?
out. Yeah, I was out at a local meet that I wasn't even going to go to because I was just like, again, like as I said before, it could be really average. But I went out and I was filming a few little. It was a video. I don't know if you've seen my Mitsubishi Pajero Evo video that I did with a big silver 4-wheel drive. It was that meet, and
Those are
I had
cool.
and that was when I was. I would have been. I wonder if I was under 10,000. I would have been under 10,000 at that point. And I had about 4 different guys come up to me and say, "Oh, hey man, like I love your videos. Like, I've seen your videos on Instagram. Like, they're really cool." And I've gone like, "Whoa, like really? Like that's sick." And then just had a chat with a few people, and I'm just like, that's really cool. So any
Yeah.
time, and now every time I go out, it'll happen at least once. And the account's not even that large yet. So
That's amazing.
it's a pretty cool feeling that because it is, the car community is a subsection of a subsection. Like it's a small community, so
Right.
it's cool to know that people are seeing my stuff because when you're throwing it out there, it's all just numbers at the end of the day to you, and you sort of can sometimes get a bit lost in it.
Yep.
But when you actually have real people come up to you and say, "Hey, like I learned this from your video," or "I really enjoyed your video," or "Your video, it helped me feel this," so you're just like, that's the single best feeling as a creator that you could ever get, better than anything.
It's a wild concept, right? That people are out there listening to what you have to say, and they want that, and they want more, and that I mean, it's that to your point, there are people behind the numbers, right? Is pretty wild.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah,
What next though? Where do you go from here? Is it
Yeah,
keep
well,
working hard, head down, or is
Yeah,
it...
I think that the next step for me is figuring out how to monetize really. So it's I've sort of set a goal for myself. I've said this privately to a few friends, but I haven't said it publicly, that I want to be doing this full time by about the start of August, end of July next year. So that's my hard stop that I've sort of put on it to say that I need to work over the next 12 months figuring out how to monetize so I can take this into a full-time thing. And for me, I've been working on a e-commerce related car business for nearly 11 months now, and that's almost in the stage where I'm looking to start telling people about what that is and selling that. So I'm hoping to use my platform to promote that, which is that brand will be a separate entity from my 2PJZ brand, but I'll just be looking to cross promote. And then for my channel is probably developing a clothing brand or merchandise brand for my stuff. I think that's the most, I wouldn't say easy because it's not easy by any means, but it's the most common way that creators, particularly car creators, will monetize. They'll have their own clothing brand. So a lot of what I do with my car stuff is, as I said before, helping people. And I really like mindset, and I'm really passionate about mental health and particularly men's mental health. So I'll say stay driven in a lot of what I do, and promote those messages of positive mental health and looking after yourself and trying to be 1% better every day is something that I really believe in. So the brand will be called Stay Driven, and it will just essentially be combining cars and streetwear and those positive messages onto clothing. So that's something
like
that
that.
I'm working on
Well
now
done.
that, hopefully get off the ground soon.
You got to diversify, don't you? I mean, it's just, this is a vehicle to other things, right? Isn't it? I mean, it's so hard to monetize this, right? And I know YouTube, every day they chip away a little bit more, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the thing.
Profits.
Once you're
And
sort of
it's,
locked in, someone else owns your income. And
Yeah.
some years ago, I was going to start a Honda motorcycle shop, and you do the numbers, and you go, okay, that's great. But the second they put the quota up or change your commission, it didn't
Yeah,
make
that's it.
sense.
Yeah.
And you've
It's,
invested years and hundreds of thousands into it, and yeah, so you've definitely got to find some way of leveraging this platform to create income for yourself
Yeah, and
that
that's the
you
thing.
own.
We don't have the TikTok Creator Fund or like they do in America, and we also don't have a good way of being paid by Instagram like there is in America. So it's sort of if start your own brand, get some good affiliate deals, which hopefully will that will come with time, and it's just a matter of keeping my head down really, and just 1% better every day, just keeping after it.
we had Freddie Hunt on the show a couple months ago, and
Did you say that?
he started a clothing line,
Yeah.
and Alan looked into buying one of the shirts so he could show up on the show in one of the shirts, and then we just. What was the price point on those?
750.
So hopefully
What?
your clothing line will be affordable to.
Like it looked good, and it was a nice cart. And
Oh, it was
ethical,
awesome, and the
ethically
philosophy
made,
and
yeah, I
yeah,
loved it.
yeah.
No, it definitely won't be that much. Yeah, no way. Not making it out of what, Egyptian
we-
cotton or something.
We too are still trying to figure out how to monetize this thing that we can
Yes.
make a living from it. So,
So you've got Instagram, you've got your YouTube channel, and that's 2PJZ as well.
Yep.
So I've got that loaded here, and it's got a nice healthy backlog and some consistent look and feel about it. So that's it's good to have that template. So what should people be looking for? Why should they be reaching out to you? Give us a bit of a elevator pitch.
Yeah. So my whole thing is that I really want to be the most honest, authentic, and genuine car content creator on the internet. As I said before, I think a lot of people lose their authenticity over time. My stuff is real. I'm truly passionate about what I do. I live and breathe cars. I am always thinking, feeling about cars, and I just want to give people that enjoyment, and I want to help people learn about cars. I want to expand people's knowledge who already like cars, and just bring people along on this journey with me, because I feel like I've got a really unique perspective on cars, and having owned so many, experienced so many, and hopefully will own and experience many more to come. So I think at this point, everyone who's seeing my stuff now, I really feel is at the start of something that's going to be quite special. I've just got this really good feeling about it. I just know that if I keep chipping away, this is going to turn into something really big. So I'm always really grateful to anyone who comes across my stuff. It just means so much to me. And I just love it.
Good job.
Yeah, I think we're right there with you. I mean, we did a little video about why watch the Roadshow, why listen to the Roadshow. And I think you hit on more eloquently, but hit on a lot of the same stuff that we were trying to get at. In a world of like we said before, a lot of folks that do this aren't necessarily true car enthusiasts, and if you do that, it will show through. People will pick up on it. And what you're doing is fantastic, and you have this strategic, way of approaching it, and I'm confident you're going to blow up even more than what you have. It's amazing. It'll be fun to watch you. I think you said this was the first podcast you've ever done.
It is.
Thanks for signing off. Yeah,
Right when you're when you're on Matt Farah, when you're on Spike's show.
remember us.
Yeah. So what's next? What are we looking out for? You got this new car. Where do you go from here?
Yeah. So for now, it's the new car, and it's just a lot of the content will still be the same. I'm still going to be pumping out Porsche stuff. I'm still going to be heading to heaps of car events. But now that I've got my own car to modify, that will just be thrown into the mix as well. So, I don't have like a 6 to 12 month plan for the channel. As I said, I like to keep it raw and authentic and just things happening as they happen. So it's and who knows where the channel and the brand can be in 6 to 12 months anyway. Like it's with the growth rate I've seen now, it could be anywhere. So it's just keeping up with me, what I'm doing, modifying the new car, experiencing what Melbourne car culture's like, Hopefully I get to go away for some form of car trip soon. I'm going to Japan at the end of the year, late November.
Yeah.
So that's first time that will ever have been to Japan. So there's going to be heaps of car stuff there. I've got heaps of tuning shop visits lined up and heaps of like car activities lined up there. So I'll be vlogging that and doing a whole bunch of shorter form stuff on that as well. So plenty of exciting stuff to come. But it's just head down, bum up for now. Really, just getting my businesses off the ground as well, and hopefully not too soon before I've got my GT3 RS in the driveway.
There you go. Yeah. And if you find yourself in London, let me know.
Yeah.
Well, I can give you some pointers on the car scene here, and we can go and do some cruises. And if you're in the US, obviously Ryan's happy to help as well. So yeah, well done, and thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
No,
Remind us where we find you, the channel and YouTube, Instagram, TikTok.
Yep. So all my channels, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, are 2PJZ. So just look up any of those and you'll come across me there.
Fantastic. Well, Pat James, living the dream, learned a lot today, actually. And, we're all kind of in this thing together and figuring it out as we go along, I guess. But it's so great to see your success and to speak with you today. So, Pat James, 2PJZ, or I'm sorry, 2PJZ, as you two would say it, right?
On that after as well.
Give him a follow, and Pat, can't wait to watch you and your successes in the days to come. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
No, thank you guys. Really appreciated it.
Till next time, we're the Road Show.
Goodbye.
See ya.